Good evening, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank organizers, IAMICON and Dr. Modi giving me the opportunity to chair an important session. After all discussion on innovation and cardiac, we will go to innovation in field of tuberculosis. So what is the innovation? I think one of the doctors wanted to know about Ayurveda. So I think in field of tuberculosis, Ayurveda has come in a big way. Cardiology has taken a great forward step in identifying what is that. For that to know about, we have senior professor Dr. Mohan Rao is working in Rajarajeshwari Medical College. He has done his MD DTCD from and his area of interest is basically research. That means he is the one he has done a lot of research in the field of tuberculosis and respiratory disease. And he has done a lot of publications in various national and international conferences, and also he is a life member of ICS. Over to Dr. Mohan Rao to continue his deliberation.
Good evening, dignitaries on the dais, dignitaries from the overseas, and specialists in pulmonology and cardiology, and my dear students. In this brief session, I am going to dig what are the innovations done in the treatment of tuberculosis, what are the newer drugs in the pipeline. I will be talking shortly. This I want to read to you, which Dr. Robert Koch, when he discovered tubercular bacillus, he has stated, I will read, if the number of bacillus victims which a disease claims is the measure of the significance, then all diseases, particularly most dreaded infectious diseases such as bubonic plague, Asiatic cholera, etc., must rank far, far behind tuberculosis. So even after 140 years of innovation, treatment, implementation of the new programs, where do we stand in India of the problem of tuberculosis? According to 2013 WHO report, which says the incidence of tuberculosis in India is 155 per lakh population. The prevalence is 256. The mortality rate is 26 per lakh population. The annual risk of tuberculosis infection has come down with the treatment on the implementation of the program from 1.5% to 1.1%. But we have other problems on our hand. One is the emergence of MDR tuberculosis and XDR tuberculosis, and secondly, the epidemic of tuberculosis and HIV. So now the whole world, especially the developing countries, are facing this MDR and XDR tuberculosis, and we need much more innovations and inventions to control this menace. So what are the constraints in the treatment of tuberculosis we have? One is the morphology of the bacteria itself. It is very lazy bacillus. It multiplies and becomes active. At that time only the drugs are helpful. Then suddenly it goes into dormancy, or it becomes metabolically inactive. At that time, no drug will act, only fewer drugs will act. So we have to treat them. The second one is, once you diagnosis itself, once the inspection to disease, it takes more than 6 to 8 weeks. And once the patient is sputum positive, he has already infected 20 people, of which one may become again a sputum positive, and this cycle will go on. That is one. Next, when you start the patient with the treatment, you have to have cultures. So to culture it, traditionally, it was taking around 6 to 8 weeks. Not like other pyogenic bacteria, which you can culture within 48 hours. So that's also another constraint. Then once you start the treatment, you may have to use multiple drugs. So one is the compliance of the drugs, so many drugs he is taking, and also the toxicity of the drugs, and there is the cost. All these things. In addition, the patient, after some time, they say maybe about 3 or 4 weeks, he will become symptomatically better. He thinks he is cured, and he stops. So then after some time he defaults, after some time again the disease comes. So all these things are the constraints in treating, diagnosing and also in treating tuberculosis.
Dr. Ramesh excited me to share, to tell you a little story of 15 years in a very short time, of how we came across and did what we did in Rizorin. And I think you asked a very intelligent question. Maybe I'll try and address that so to take care of your curiosity. But so, I'm not an expert on either Ayurveda nor medicine. I'm a biologist, molecular biologist. So, in our ancient science of Ayurveda, thousands of years of clinical trials, not in the way that many of us know clinical trials today, but by practice and then by documentation, and then this knowledge stayed with the Vedas, and there is a concept of triputi, the three substances, one of which is pepper. And it was known for thousands of years that in patients who were suffering, who were ill, people who were ill, when certain churans and certain extracts were given, patients would heal. But in patients which were severe, when triputi in some sort of concentration, in some concoction was added, the healing process became much more. The clinical outcome of that treatment was much better. So this is history, this is what was known. And at the RRL in Jammu, there were some passionate scientists. In fact, the then director of RRL was very passionate about this whole area, and went around and dissected pepper and identified that the bioenhancing, bioequivalent, enhancing capability was because of piperine. It was Kerala, it was our, so that means there is a substance which you can mix with substances, it will help improve the bioavailability. We chose to work on rifampicin because 15 years ago, although rifampicin, there was no other product. We heard wonderful things of what's going to come, may come in India, and so on. But there was no other research going on for the next level of drugs. And there was also there was severe adverse effects. And I think many of you are practicing doctors, and there is a significant population of people who get affected. And when they get affected, they really literally don't take the medicine. This was known. Tuberculosis is a dreaded disease. There was no cure. 15 years ago, the number of people dying of tuberculosis was so much higher than what is today. So that fascinated my father's passion to see if we can contribute in that area. And so we did various combinations, we never knew what would happen. Had we had 10% reduction of dose of rifampicin, this would never be a drug. But we, after studies, proved that 50% reduction in amount of rifampicin, which would therefore help patients who actually cannot tolerate rifampicin and therefore help cure them of this dreaded disease, was the outcome. So I think that's in brief, how we managed that, how much studies were required to do, come to that actual formulation. The fact that how did we think of rifampicin, can we think of something else, are all other stories, but this is a success story. So we have thousands of failures and 50,000 research projects, but today we were here to showcase that we in India did something, it works, it's available in the market, and it's approved by the regulator for use for healing patients. So we not talked of failures, we not talked of 10,000 other research projects that we are doing. We never know whether they will see the day of light, but we thought of sharing a success story. But with one goal, this is not just one CME, with one goal that if we can use this platform for IAMICON and get people excited of thinking, of sharing such experiences which they have, and maybe collaborate with Cadila or any other company or any other institute, but see if we can propagate and come forward with innovation in medicine over time to come. So I think IAMICON is a platform which we have created, and as people will start appreciating, this is new for India. Let's be very honest, ladies and gentlemen. This is new for India. Let's be very honest. This has not happened in our country before. Yes, there is research, but there is only 3 innovations in medicine that we talked about. So I think as our country progresses, we believe that manufacturing will be relevant, but in the area of pharmaceuticals, as we all know, global companies are already manufacturing in India. So we have to think beyond manufacturing. We think of development, we think of innovation. And I think when over time, brains, intelligent brains, Indian brains can get aligned to get into innovation, we know that we will be able to do innovation at much more affordable price than the 4 billion which cost of new product development which some of my colleagues talked about. So I think I just wanted to give a little flavor of a 15-year history of so much efforts that we did, and we got this result. I think a colleague from us asked about the depth of the science, the amount of trials, the amount of studies. So, as we develop, and I am not here to preach, but there is a process which is adopted globally of how one brings new product to the market. So, you go through various studies, and I think, I'm preaching to the Pope, so I think all of you know that, that you do some animal studies. Once you are successful with animal studies and scientifically peer reviewed, you go through those defining studies. Once you have those defining studies, you demonstrate the proof of concept, and then you scale that up for ensuring that there are no side effects, apparent short-term, long-term side effects. But as we all know, this is a journey. So you start somewhere. There is never a 50 million people population or a 5 lakh population or a 50,000 people population study which is done before the drug is launched. It's after the basic science is done and the drug is proved safe. Safety is very important. The drug is proven to be effective. It's very important. And in this case of Rezurin, we demonstrated safety, better safety than what the current therapy is, which is higher dose of rifampicin, and we demonstrated that this is not only safe but is effective, and therefore with that trial which is published, we got the approval. This doesn't mean that we have done the research on Rezurin is over. We have to conduct more trials. Some of these are ongoing and some of these have to be planned. We have to work with more scientists, and our mission, and I am telling you very boldly, our mission is to continue to do that, support that research till we become part of the tuberculosis program in India and the world. Because we believe, because of the science that we have had, because of some of the data which our colleagues showed, that Rezurin is real. So yes, we don't have a 5 lakh patient study published yet, but we do have the studies what we talked about published. They are credible studies. There are more studies to be done, and as we encounter and do these more studies, I think we will learn more. But that is the journey of medicine. I think all of you in this audience know that you treat your patient, and as you treat differently, as you evolve, you treat your patients with different medicines, some things work somewhere and so on and so forth. So I thought I will just sort of clarify and demystify that as we all embark on this journey in India of innovation, we will have to have some open mind. We have to be very sure of safety. That's like basic. And we here in this particular group of products that Cadila has talked about, that is beyond doubt. But we also have to show that the product is superior than what is available in the existing market. Superior in terms of patient compliance, superior in terms of treating patients, in healing patients. And if that can be made affordable, then that's like miracle on earth. And that's what journey we are on. I know you will all support us. I know you all love Cadila. I know you are fond of our company. And we thought that we should expose this dimension of what this great company of our country is working on. So I thought it was important and appropriate as I went around and deliberated and listened to all of you. And again, as we, this is just a forum, we will come and meet, but it's also an announcement. Please contact, when our field officers come and our ABM and SMs come, please tell them. If you have some wonderful thing you want to share with us, please let them know, because we are very keen to participate, partner with new ideas to see if we can then translate them in the short term or over a long period of time into something like we did at Polycap, like we did with Mycirexi, and like we did with Reservoir. I thought it was important. I'm sorry to take your time, but thank you.